Good evening and welcome. Let's take a look at our top story that we are tracking for you. India's Covaxin jab has been approved by the World Health Organization for emergency use. This means that the Covaxin now joins the 7 vaccines approved by the WHO. This means that the current list of vaccines approved by the UN health body include Covaxin, Moderna, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Covishield, Johnson & Johnson, Sinopharm and Sinovac. The WHO has said that the Covaxin vaccine meets its standards for protection against COVID-19. It also added that the benefit of the vaccine far outweighs the risks. The vaccine was also reviewed by the WHO's Strategic Advisory Group of Experts on Immunization. It has recommended the use of this vaccine in 2 doses, with the dose interval of 4 weeks in all age groups of 18 years and above. But the UN health body says that the available data on vaccination of pregnant women with the Covaxin are insufficient to assess the vaccine safety or efficacy in pregnancy. Studies in pregnant women are planned, including a pregnancy sub-study and a pregnancy registry. Earlier, the WHO was in the process of evaluating Covaxin's clinical trial data for emergency use listing. The WHO had asked biotech for more data on Covaxin. India has also raised the issue of Covaxin approval at the G20 summit. Bharat Biotech has said that the emergency use of Covaxin will expedite global access and availability of the vaccine worldwide.
Today, Covaxin got UL from WHO. It is a momentous occasion for Indian innovation, Indian entrepreneurship, Indian startup, and Indian science. As a scientist, I pray that India's innovation is starting and it's going to boom as we go along. We at Bharat Biotech are grateful to the Honorable Prime Minister and many respected people who took the Covaxin to instill the confidence in Indian science. We are grateful to the Honorable Health Minister and senior officials from the Ministry of Health for their hard work. We are thankful to the ICMR and NIV for their partnership and establish true public-private partnership in the country.
The WHO's emergency use listing for Covaxin facilitates countries to expedite their regulatory approval processes. It also allows procurement by UNICEF, PAHO, and the Gavi COVAX facility for distribution to countries in need. Covaxin has demonstrated 77.8% effectiveness against COVID-19 and 65.2% protection against the Delta variant. India has administered more than 121 million doses of Covaxin. This means that over 59 million people in India have received the jab. Countries that have approved Covaxin include Australia, Mauritius, Oman, Philippines, Nepal, Mexico, Iran, Sri Lanka, Greece, Estonia, and Zimbabwe. Now, our principal diplomatic correspondent, Siddhant Sibbal, has sent us this report on India's indigenous vaccine being approved for emergency use by the World Health Organization.
It's a big Diwali gift from the World Health Organization. It has given approval to the Indian COVID vaccine, Covaxin, but of course after much delay, which has of course raised questions. But talking about this development, it's a major development in terms of a lot of students and a lot of workers, Indian workers and students who wanted to go abroad, and with the World Health Organization giving approval to Covaxin, this eases the process. We know that Covaxin is the 8th COVID vaccine to be given approval by the World Health Organization, and it is the second India-made vaccine to be given approval by the World Health Organization. We also know that development comes days after the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi had raised the matter at the G20 summit and also with the World Health Organization chief as well. We have got a statement from Bharat Biotech, which is the manufacturer of Covaxin, and in a statement they have said that it will help in the ease when it comes to procurement by organizations such as UNICEF and Gavi when it comes to getting the Covaxin. India has given a lot of Covaxin as grant and commercially to many countries including Iran. That's a positive news for them as well. With video journalist Siddhant Sibbal for WION in New Delhi.
Now, the United States has approved the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine for children. This is a major milestone in the country's fight against the pandemic. The age group decided by the White House is 5 to 11. This makes about 28 million U.S. children eligible for the vaccine dosage. Remember, the U.S. is already inoculating children between 12 to 18. The authorization comes after an expert panel at the CDC weighed the risks and the benefits. The FDA officials say that the vaccine is 91% effective. While the decision is being hailed, the dosage is a tricky job of drug suppliers and doctors because the vaccine dose authorized for the children is a third of the dosage given to the adults. Now, what this means is that smaller needles will have to be used and the second jab will be given 3 weeks after the first. Nevertheless, the rollout comes at a crucial time. The U.S. has recorded the world's highest COVID-related death toll. In the last 2 years, about 750,000 people have lost their lives to the virus. Meanwhile, vaccination records show that nearly 80% of adults have received at least one jab in the U.S., and almost 70% of American adults are fully vaccinated. The country has also been aggressively pushing for booster jab campaign. Despite some parts of the country still experiencing outbreaks, the U.S. has seen a steady decline in nationwide cases, hospitalizations, and deaths. Even after a high inoculation rate and a fall in cases, the U.S. is marred with vaccine hesitancy. Many parents are still reluctant to get their children vaccinated. Now, this might become a hurdle in Biden's effort to boost the vaccination drive. Speaking on vaccinating kids, the World Health Organization has said that the need to immunize children is important, but is not the priority as of this moment.
The United States actually just yesterday recommended the use of one of the mRNA vaccines from 5 years onward in a slightly reduced concentration. The other aspect that needs to be taken into consideration is the need to immunize children. As we know that in children and also in adolescents, the burden of disease is much lower. So from WHO's perspective, at that point in time, the vaccination of children and adolescents, aside specific subpopulations and adolescents with specific conditions that make them very vulnerable, it's not a priority. That is, of course, something that will evolve as the pandemic evolves, as more supply becomes available. But it is not, in the current situation where we are, it's not a public health priority. And again, speaking for WHO, we have not yet reviewed these data.
Let's look at some other countries who are also vaccinating the young. Cuba is inoculating the youngest age group in the world. Children aged 2 and above are eligible for a jab, followed by China and the United Arab Emirates, who are inoculating children aged 3 and above. Bahrain and Chile have also extended their vaccination drive to as young as 5-year-olds. The United Kingdom, France, Spain, Germany, Sweden, and Canada have decided to only vaccinate children above the age of 12. Some Asian countries like Singapore, Japan, and the Philippines have decided on similar authorization, and oceanic nations, New Zealand and Australia, are following the same path. At the moment, Israel is administering vaccines to children aged 12 and above, but Prime Minister Naftali Bennett is slated to meet with the top health officials today. The meeting is set to decide approval of Pfizer vaccine for children aged 5 to 11. Vaccination drive in India has not been extended to children yet. So as the government slowing reopens the schools, unvaccinated children are returning to classrooms. It is being closely monitored when the Indian government will conclude its trial and start vaccinating the young.
WION, now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.